Well, good morning and happy Thursday to everyone. Welcome to College Readiness with SAIL and OISP. We are excited for you today. We've got a lot of more wonderful presenters and activities going on. This morning, we have some special folks who work at the university who will be talking about support programs and scholarships and special tips. You will have some time in your breakout room with your staff that are part of your flight paths. You have lunch hour if you are enjoying that with Megan and staff. There is a wonderful astronomy session today from 2 to 3 after your flight paths. Then there is the Ask the Experts session again. And at 4:30 today, we have a wonderful group of people coming to share different community service opportunities for you and ways to engage in your worlds and build your tool set. So get ready for a fantastic day. I would love to start by introducing a dear friend of mine and colleague, Tara. She is she's the director of the TRIO program at the University of Oregon, and she's got a lot of really cool information to share with you. If you have questions, please do your usual and put them into the chat. And followed by Tara is Jeff Ransford, who will be talking about Pathway Oregon. So sit back and relax and get your chat questions ready. Remember, please keep your questions directed at the presenters and not small chat. Look forward to it. Welcome, Tara.
Hi. So Jeff and I are going to tag team this first part because he is the advisor in Pathway who is like the financial aid guru. So I'm excited to be presenting this with him. So let me share my screen. I did it before, so I should be able to do it again so everybody can see. Okay, everyone can see that?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, cool. So we were asked, Jeff and I were asked to talk a little bit about scholarship information, you know, kind of where to find scholarships, and also scholarship essay tips. So we're going to do that today. And Jeff's going to kind of pipe in when he has information, which I know he'll have a lot of great information. So watch for that. So essentially, college scholarships, it can be a bit of an overwhelming process, but one that I think is really worthwhile to engage in, because free money is great for college. College is expensive. And so there's a lot of free money out there that students, if they take the time and get the support they need, can really access to sort of make the financial piece of college be a little less stressful. So that's what we're going to hope to kind of give you some tips on today. And of course, you know, you'll get this information and you might forget some of it, but there's people all over any college campus that you go to that'd be happy to help you kind of engage in scholarship essay writing and finding scholarships. So my first thing that I said or I wrote is that you need to investigate scholarships, and you want to narrow down your options, but you don't want to be too narrow. There's lots of scholarships out there and you don't want to miss some that are applicable to you. So you want to start early, and you will, you know, engage in looking at different scholarships. There's a lot of scholarships at institutions. So the college that you're going to attend will have scholarships that they can offer to you. Some are based on your first generation status. Like at the U of O, they have the Diversity Excellence Scholarship called the DES. And then there's also scholarships through the institution that are based on GPA. So you'll want to look at those. So you can just do a search on any of your college websites and just type in scholarships and you'll probably find a lot of information there. There's also a lot of scholarships that are offered through your major department. So if you're coming in as a declared major, it's worth checking your major department to see if they have scholarships that might apply to you. There's also a lot of scholarship based on identity groups. So LGBTQIA+, has scholarships. The Women's Center has scholarships. So you'll definitely want to look into those scholarships as well. And then for students who went to high school in Oregon or graduated from an Oregon high school, the Office for Student Access and Completion has a ton of scholarships. You can go onto their website and fill out a profile. And then I think it's I don't know, in the millions of dollars of scholarships that are available to you by just going onto that website and seeing which ones apply to you. And by filling out the profile, you can identify the ones that are applicable to you and they'll come up for you to apply to. There's also scholarships through your credit union or your bank, where you bank, or your parents' bank. Your parents' employers sometimes have scholarships. Your employer can sometimes have scholarships. We have students who've worked at Jamba Juice and other bigger companies who have applied for scholarships through their employer, which is really cool. And then your high school will also have scholarships, and your career center and your will help you kind of identify scholarships that would be helpful to you. And then there's also the UO Scholarship Bulletin Board, where the financial aid office will put up all kinds of scholarships that they get information on. So that's constantly updated. And then the UO also has a scholarship dashboard, and that will have information on some of the ones I explained, like the general UO and the diversity excellence are all kind of housed on that platform. So Jeff, what do you want to add?
Yeah, no, thank you. And hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Ransford. I'll talk a little bit more later on about the Pathway Oregon program specifically, but I think this is a great list that Tara put together. And really, as you're looking at different scholarships, I think it's helpful just to kind of group things. So, for example, those first three that you see on the list, the institution, the departmental, and then even groups on campus, those are all scholarships, whether you're looking at U of O or any college, that you can go to the college website and really begin exploring, starting with the financial aid website at those schools, and then really trying to find out what are the available scholarships that might be out there. And then in addition to the university scholarship sources that you can look for, then as Tara mentioned, the high school is a great place to look for other resources. And then in addition to high school and private scholarships, there are those state organizations, and that's the one in the middle with OSAC, the Oregon Student Access Commission. So I think we have some slides that come up next about how do you keep track of all this? And that's another big part of searching for scholarships, is getting organized and first figuring out, where do I look for things in all these different locations, but then how do I remember all this and how do I keep track of it? So I think that's some of the information we'll get to next.
So yeah, so what Jeff said is true. You have to really carefully create a spreadsheet with dates and deadlines and requirements so you can track your progress. It can get confusing, but if you stay organized and you keep it up to date, it's not too troubling. You definitely want to carefully review the eligibility requirements for each scholarship and the application requirements and the timelines. You really need to kind of hit all those, else you will not get what you may not be eligible once you kind of get all your information. And if you miss something, then they can't look at your scholarship application. So you want to make sure you track all that. Letters of recommendation are often required for a lot of scholarships, and you want to kind of start to think about who might those people be that can be your letters of recommendation. Who knows you well enough to write you a letter of recommendation, and talking to those people earlier rather than later, and giving them plenty of time to respond and compose the letter. And you have to really have several folks in mind, just in case you need a backup. Maybe someone's not available or they don't feel like they know you well, then you may have to move on and find someone else. So it's really important early on to create those relationships and reach out to your teachers and the people maybe that you work with or you've done some volunteer work for, and make sure to create those relationships. So when they go to write, when you go to ask them to write a letter of recommendation, they really feel comfortable and they know you and they can really write you a great letter of recommendation, because those are important. And the other big piece is just getting help with your scholarship essay, either through a trusted mentor or writing center or a parent. You definitely want to get working on those early, and you're going to go through many different iterations of that, and you want to make sure that it's the best that it can be. So yeah, get help on that. It shouldn't be something you do alone. There's lots of people, a teacher, a mentor that would really probably be really happy to help you with those scholarship essays. So Jeff, you have something to add?
Yeah, I'd be glad to add a little bit too, just about what Tara shared about the letters of recommendation. I think as a student, that's one of the scariest things, is to begin to ask teachers or employers or other people who you think would be a good person to write a letter. It's hard to, I think, work up the courage to ask. And then it's also hard not knowing, right, whether they might say yes or no to whether they want to write that letter. And just to give you some perspective, I used to work for years as a high school, college counselor as well. So I worked with juniors and seniors as they were at this stage. And I really tried to share with them that, as Tara said, you want to ask someone who knows you, who can say something personal about something they've maybe worked on with you, or had you in class, or observed some good work, or a great paper that you might have written, or a project, something that will allow them to say more than just a general letter. But I also wanted to share too, it's okay to ask a few different people, as it says on the slide, because sometimes you may get a teacher who replies and says, well, I could write one. I'm sorry, as I'm talking, I hear my telephone in the background, so sorry about the background noise. But anyway, I was going to say that if you ask someone and the teacher might reply and say, well, I could write a letter, but do you know some other teachers that you might have had more or longer? That's a nice clue that they probably would be happy to write it, but you really want to strategize and find those who can write something with some detail. And that can really help, I think, in terms of let your application stand out more than another.
I also wanted to, I didn't mention this or put this on the slide, but I also want to just mention, as you're going through your high school career, it's important to keep track of the things that you're doing. So almost create sort of a resume in real time, so that when you go to do scholarship essays, a lot of them are going to ask, what did you do? What are the leadership experiences you had? What are the volunteer opportunities you did? And to have to recreate that after the fact is really pretty difficult. And so I think it's really important, as you're moving through your high school career, to just you don't have to do a formal resume, but just jot things down in a timeline, so that when you come to apply to scholarship essays, you will have that all just perfectly laid out for you. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say it's a great suggestion. And again, years ago when I was at the high school level, I also taught English, and sometimes students didn't know why I was making them do this, because it didn't seem like a typical English assignment, but I made my students create a resume for this very reason. And I had them begin to record what are all the clubs I was a part of or activities I participated in, what kinds of any kind of honor or award or recognition, volunteer experience, work experience. And if you start to record all of those things, not only does that help you later as you're starting to fill out these applications, because they will ask for that information, but I also think if you have that in a nice template, whether it's an official resume or not, doesn't really matter. But if you ask a teacher or someone to write a letter of recommendation for you for a scholarship application, you can also give them that sheet, because sometimes these people may not know all the things that you're doing. And then when they see that, that really gives them more information that they could expand on in the letters they write for you. So it's great for you to keep track of everything and to stay organized. It's also a great thing that you can share with others at a time when they're ready to write about you and to recommend you for these scholarships.
And this may seem obvious, but that type of resume is also really helpful when you go to fill out your college applications, because they'll ask for all that stuff too. So just good on so many fronts. Hey, Jeff, I wanted to talk a little bit, and I want your help on this about just the timelines, because I know at the U of O for certain scholarships, you know, you have to look early and apply to the school early so that you don't miss those deadlines. And so I just want to make sure students look at that stuff early. So if you're applying to several different schools, it's probably worth checking out, like Jeff said, going on their website and looking at their scholarships and making sure you have those deadlines, because they may come up earlier than you think. And I definitely talk to a lot of students who in their first year at the U of O often will not have as many scholarships as maybe they could have, because maybe they decided to come to UO late, or they didn't, you know, do this sort of work early. And so they missed some opportunities that maybe they could have had. So just look early, do your investigation, and you'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. And I think it really is important for every school you're looking at to go specifically start with by going to the financial aid office website for each of those institutions. And most scholarships that students are applying for that they hope to get in their first year will typically be around January, prior to the year that they're coming, that they would want to complete those. But there are a few, for example, at U of O, that might even be earlier than January. It could even be in November of your senior year. So in that case, I think it's a great time to start pooling all to junior, looking ahead to the next year, and then really getting serious about organizing all those deadlines the summer before your senior year, when you're actually getting ready to complete those college applications.
Great advice. It is interesting how far in advance you have to start thinking about this. It's hard to even think that that's possible, but it really is, you know, well ahead of time. So the next slide just talks about, you know, getting your submissions in on time, completing all the necessary requirements. And like we said before, part of that's just kind of keeping focused and keeping organized and making sure that you have everything you need. The other thing I wrote is don't get defeated if you don't get many or any scholarships your first time around, because if you keep trying, it's most likely that you're going to get something, but it can feel pretty hard if you put in a lot of work and you maybe don't get as many as you wanted, or you don't get any at all. And I talk to a lot of students about this and really encourage them to try again. And usually they're successful. It sometimes takes several rounds before a student might be successful at getting a scholarship. And I have personally worked with students who didn't get awarded a scholarship one year, and the next year they got the exact same scholarship. You know, different time, different competition, different scholarship essay, you know, and so I would just say, keep your head up. It's a tough process, but it really pays off. And in the end, and I just want you to stay focused and just feel like, okay, maybe I didn't get it this time, but I'll get it the next time. And just use your resources, ask for help. There's people that want to help you get this free money.
Yeah, those are great points. And I think just on a really practical level, apply to as many scholarships that you think you can find that you're eligible for. And know that you're not going to get every one of them, but if you'll get really good once you start filling out a few applications and you have all that information that they typically ask for ready, and once you've written one or two different scholarship essays, if they ask for them, you may not be able to use the same one for every scholarship, but you can use a lot of the content and start to just make slight modifications. And so you'll find, if you spend 30 minutes or even an hour on one scholarship application, and then you multiply that by, and you put in 20 hours, if you get one of them, even for $300, that's a good return. And if you happen to get more than that or a bigger scholarship, then suddenly all that extra time you put in is absolutely worth it. In fact, it's better than what you get in any kind of paying job. So again, just walk into this process thinking, hey, I'm not going to get every one of them, but I'm going to look for every one I can find and apply. And if I get even one of them back, I probably win out. And if I get more than that, it's even better. So again, there are lots of scholarships and lots of people applying, but don't worry, keep applying.
That is a great segue into talking about scholarship essays, Jeff. It's like we planned that, but we didn't. So that's even cooler. So like Jeff said, you'll get better and better at these scholarships. It takes practice, these scholarship essays. So it takes practice. So you need to give yourself plenty of time to complete your scholarship essay. You got to brainstorm. It often takes several rounds of edits and input from people. And so you just really want to think about how to organize it. And you really want to thoroughly research the organization who is offering the scholarship. And if they are asking for your essay to touch on certain things, you really want to answer their questions and be specific. They don't want to get your essay and think, oh, that looks like they just replicated that essay for 20 different essays. That doesn't feel very good to an essay awarder if they don't feel like you put in the time to really read about their organization and answer their questions if they're asking you to answer specific questions. So you want to follow the detailed application information and the essay instructions. And also don't be afraid to get personal and speak from the heart, but you want to kind of weave your personal experiences into your essay and explain why you're a good candidate. So you want to get personal, but not too personal. And you want to kind of stick to kind of the task at hand. But I think, I read a lot of scholarship essays because we offer scholarships in our program. And I really like to get to know the applicants. And so some personal stuff, some personality in there, I think always kind of goes a long way, but you also want to make sure you don't get too off track. And really do seek out advice and editing help. It really does make you feel kind of less alone in it. And I think it makes you feel more confident as you submit those scholarship essays if you've had some input, even from one person, a couple people. I think it's helpful. I think, Jeff.
Yeah, and I don't have anything to add, suggestions. And I want to be mindful of our time too. So Lara and our SAIL leaders, how are we doing? Do we need to make sure that we stop in a few minutes at 11:30 and we can make that fit, or did you have any flexibility there?
We have just a little tiny wiggle room, and because I would love you both to just say a word or two about Pathway and Trio.
Let's do that. So Tara, I'll let you lead with Trio.
This is quick. I can be quick on this. So I run a program called Trio Student Support Services. It's a Department of Ed grant funded program for students. And to be eligible for the program, there's a couple of different options. You don't have to have all 3 eligibility requirements, but if your parent or parents did not complete a 4-year degree, that's one of the eligibility requirements. If you're a low-income student, and that's a bit more complicated, but through the application process, we're able to help determine that. We're asking you to provide us with information on your family taxable income, and that's how we figure out that eligibility requirement. And then if you have accommodations through the Accessible Education Center on campus, Lara, have you guys heard from them or not?
In regards to what?
Well, just are the students familiar with the Accessible Education Center at all?
We have not yet. Tomorrow we'll be talking about them a little bit, but go ahead. Say your.
Well, no, that's okay. So you guys will hear about what the accessible education is tomorrow, but if you're a student that's connected to the Accessible Education Center and gets accommodations, that's also one of our eligibility requirements. So just a reminder, you can be first gen, low income, or have accommodations. And once we determine your eligibility, if you're admitted to the program, we have lots of different resources. We have academic resources, personal resources, financial resources, and literacy and education, and then advising support. So academically, we offer free tutoring through the UO Tutoring Center, which is called the Tutoring and Academic Engagement Center, but I, for shorthand, say the UO Tutoring Center. And we also offer tutoring through an online platform called tutor.com. So if you're a student who's taking classes in subjects that we offer tutoring for, we'll reach out to you and make sure you get connected to those resources. We also have a peer mentoring program. So we like to connect our new students with a peer mentor who's a TRIO student who, you know, a few years ago was just like you coming into college. And so that's a really nice thing. We also have a in-house personal licensed counselor. So if you need counseling support, that's a great resource that we offer. And then financially, we have grants and scholarships within our program that we can offer our students, as well as help finding scholarships, writing scholarship essays, reading your bill, anything financial aid related that can be really confusing and complicated, we can help with. And then we advise every major on campus. So certainly you'll want to connect with your major department to get advising, but we love to connect with our students on what they're doing and the classes they're taking and just make sure that you're efficiently moving through your major. So we do that. And essentially, kind of in a nutshell, what we like to be for our students is a safety net or a home base so that you have questions about anything, you can come to us first and we can kind of help guide you to where you need to go or who you need to talk to or talk to someone on your behalf. To be admitted to the program, you have to complete the program eligibility form, which helps us identify if you're eligible. And then you also have to complete an online application. It doesn't take very long. Once those two things are complete and in our system, we have you make an appointment with me and you and I talk through kind of an individualized resource plan and the resources we offer. And then we determine if you feel like you want to be admitted to the program and you have the need, and we kind of determine that together, the two of us. Once you're admitted into the program, our expectations are not super difficult, but we do have some expectations. So meeting with an advisor at least once a term. Of course, meeting with us more is encouraged and recommended, but once a term is our minimum. We also want you to connect with our TRIO Peer Mentor program or peer mentor for the first, half a year to a year that you're in the program. And then just staying connected and using the resources that we have to make academic progress. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I do have information on our contact stuff, but I can't seem to get my mouse. Okay, here we go. So there's our contact information, triosss.uoregon.edu. Same, the email is just triosss@uoregon.edu. And then I put my personal email. Happy to answer any questions or connect with you all and just talk more about the program. So that's it.
That's awesome. TRIO is fabulous. Everybody, you will get this information to you as well, but try and write things down as they come. Thanks, Tara, so much. And now we get a little pathway.
Yeah, and Tara, if you could get us to the next slide. So what is Pathway? Some of you may have heard it. It's a program specific to the University of Oregon. So it's not at other institutions, but they may have different kinds of programs like it. But if you're accepted into Pathway Oregon as a first-year student coming in, what it means is there's a promise that the university will cover the full cost of your tuition and fees for 4 years using a combination of your federal aid and, if need be, aid from the university. So that usually means, we don't have to get too deep into the details, but you get some aid typically from the Pell Grant from your FAFSA. So if you qualify for the Pell Grant, then they would use that along with other aid to cover your tuition and fees. So those in Pathway Oregon don't pay for tuition and fees. And really the biggest cost for most students in the program is if they decide to live on campus and paying for housing and food. But apart from that, it's a wonderful financial form of support while they're here. What makes Pathway Oregon so unique, though, is that you can see the bulleted points at the bottom of the slide. You're also immediately connected to a team of advisors, and I'm one of many advisors in the Pathway Oregon team. Our full-time job is to work with you from day one all the way to the point you graduate and provide support for you. And that's giving you academic advice throughout that time, helping you with, workshops or other things, introducing you to the university and the opportunities you might be able to access based on your interests, even having a peer mentorship program so you can connect with other students in the program who've gone through this before. So it's a job I love, but ultimately we get to know you well while you're here, and our job is to make sure that we give you everything you need to be successful while you're a student. So let's go to the next slide. And how do you get in, right? So here's the great news. You don't have to apply for Pathway Oregon. You simply have to apply to the university. And so those who are eligible are Oregon residents. They're from the state of Oregon. They've graduated from an Oregon high school in the last couple of years. They're admitted to the University of Oregon as a first-time freshman. So they're not transfer students. You have to come in as a first-time freshman. And you have a certain GPA. So this is a 3.4 high school GPA. And then I mentioned this, but most importantly, when you fill out the FAFSA, you have to be eligible for the Pell Grant to show that there's some financial need. And if we go to the next slide, Tara. So again, as I mentioned, the only thing you have to do to be considered eligible for this is turn in the regular University of Oregon admission application by their regular deadline and fill out that FAFSA. And if you do those two things and you meet the other requirements that we saw on the previous slide, you're automatically accepted into the program, and you'd get a letter from the financial aid office giving you the good news. Congratulations, you're in. And then at that point, of course, we would help you starting in the summer when you get ready to start your first year. So if you go to the final slide, this is also where we have contact information. You can look at this program in more detail. Website is pathwayoregon.uoregon.edu, and our general email is the same. It's just pathwayoregon@uoregon.edu. You can contact us anytime, even if you're years away from this. But no matter what grade you're in now, we'd love to answer any questions you have. And I also gave you my personal email. You're welcome to contact me too. And that information is on the website. But it's a spectacular program to give students the chance financially to make this work, and then to have the kind of support where we're here to help guide you through whatever interests or needs you might have to make sure you get that degree and you're successful. And that's it.
It's a lot in such a short little time. You both are wonderful for being with us and sharing fantastic information. These slides will be available for all of you, so hang tight. They will be on our website under the resources tab. Jeff and Tara, again, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Hands up for you. And I hope our students reach out to you. I'm sure they will.
Thank you for the invite. We appreciate it so much being included.
Thank you. Bye.
Have fun, you guys.